The Spotlight, shining a light on podcasts and videos that have caught our attention.
Hi and welcome to The Spotlight. My name is Jen Spiker and today I'll share the balance of a recent conversation from Vision's weekend program, Real Faith. Molly Kubes had an incredibly successful social media business. Her income was largely derived from her involvement in the New Age movement. So when she began to believe in Jesus, this presented a big challenge. We pick up the conversation between Eric Scatterbo and Molly to find out how the business developed, how Molly came to faith in Christ, and what he's done in her life since.
The Spotlight with Jen Spiker.
And so how did you ultimately go from just kind of getting into it personally to it becoming a part of your business?
Well, yoga really transformed me in the sense that I let go of drinking drugs. I was able to shift my health. I found this discipline and dedication in having a daily practice that really got me on the straight and narrow in that sense. And I wanted to teach what I had learned. So I started teaching yoga. I got my yoga teacher certification and I ended up teaching yoga full time. But I wasn't making that much money.
So it's not a big moneymaker, the yoga teaching gig.
Yeah, it was really difficult to actually support yourself doing that. And I had a friend who was traveling the world teaching yoga. And he had grown his following on Instagram and was selling online yoga courses. And I had a chat with him and I was like, what are you doing? Like, I want to do that. How can I do that? And he kind of showed me some of the ropes around Instagram and online courses and things like that. And I ended up kind of following suit. So I started posting on Instagram and YouTube and growing on social media. And it grew quite quickly, actually. And I ended up actually investing in my first business coach, and she taught me how to set up all of my digital platforms in a more professional way. And I basically skyrocketed my Instagram and my business. It happened super, super quick. Most businesses don't actually profit within the first 3 years, but I was generating a lot of income with very low startup cost.
Yeah. And you, at one point, had a six-figure income from this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I made my first six figures within probably in a year. But yeah, so anyways, I ended up growing so fast and I was traveling that I had a lot of people in the spiritual community saw this massive shift in me. And they started reaching out to me and asking me hey, what are you doing? And a lot of people actually started asking me to teach them. And I would just decline and send them to my business coach. And then one day there's this lady who was like, I really want to learn from you. And I was like, all right. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to say yes and see where this goes. And she was my first client. And then from there, I ended up just starting to slowly pivot my business and focusing solely on helping people in the spiritual industry learn how to grow on social media, learn how to build a digital business, learn how to launch online courses.
Now, when you said in the spiritual industry, is that the word you used?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like beyond yoga, this is other New Age type things?
Yeah, so Reiki practitioners, psychics,
all
intuitives, people in the Tantra space. And it's basically more so a lot of New Age is linked with the health and wellness industry. So I had health coaches and things like that.
Oh, so you were like a mentor to all these people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I had probably over 200 students. It grew pretty big.
So you had 20,000 followers on Instagram and then all these people paying you to coach them?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's all happening.
Yeah. And they got great results too. Their business was killing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so
then
they were all growing.
Then all of a sudden Jesus comes into your life and it all changes. But we need to find out the path. What happened? How did you go from this successful business to Jesus entering into your life?
Yeah. So what happened was 2020 happened.
Yeah. COVID and all that.
Yeah. So I ended up traveling to Australia and literally landed in Australia probably 3 days before they shut the borders for any new visitors to come in.
Oh, okay.
And Justin Trudeau, the prime minister, made this emergency call out for anybody who was overseas that they needed to come home now.
Back to Canada.
Yeah, back to Canada. And so that was a huge life moment for me.
Mhm.
And there was some information that was revealed to me about how a lot of these new age practices are actually linked to Satanism. And I started to discover how some of the practices I was doing was witchcraft. And that was really confronting for me.
How did you find out this?
Just through certain videos and certain learning about the gods that I was worshiping and realizing that they're demonic, basically.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it all started
Yeah.
off all well and good, a kind of a spiritual movement
Yeah.
and enlightenment. But now the veil is being lifted, so to speak, and you're seeing
Yeah.
what's actually behind it is a demonic force. Is that what
Yeah.
happened? Mhm.
Yeah. A lot of that, I just couldn't unsee it. And I had some experiences that were scary in the new age where it was certain spirits weren't nice spirits anymore. And it's we kind of believed in spirit guides and all these things and law of attraction. And I put my trust in a lot of new age leaders who, were out of integrity, and some really real confronting things were happening that I just couldn't ignore.
Mhm.
And there's just this inner voice inside of me that was where alarm bells were going off. And being isolated from my family in a different country, and my family actually encouraged me to stay in Australia because they didn't think it would be safe for me to travel. And it was so unknown at the time what COVID was. And so I made the decision to stay, but it was quite isolating, not having any community or friends or the support network I would normally have during a pretty big life event.
Mhm.
And I basically just had this really big moment where I was feeling really overwhelmed and confused around what to do next. And I just was so overwhelmed that I just fell onto my knees and I called out to Jesus. And Jesus
Now,
had been
how did you even know to call to him?
he had been introduced to me a few times. And basically, when I recognized that these new age practices were linked to Satanism, it was okay, if that's true and what I've been worshiping is satanic, what's the opposite of that? And that's Jesus.
Oh,
and
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was introduced to me. And so I was okay, if this is all satanic that I've been building my life upon, who do I trust? And I just called out to Jesus, and I heard this audible voice, which I'm not, that doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
This is probably only happened twice in my life. And even on my Christian journey, that strongly. And it was just, I called out to Jesus and I was Jesus, what do I focus on? And he said, focus on me. And then since then I made the decision to follow him and focus on him. And basically I went through this fairly extensive process of laying down my life and laying down my business and closing everything down to start to follow him and learn what it means to be a follower of Jesus.
Yeah. Well, let's just open that up a little bit and unpack that a little bit. You made money, your income, how you paid the rent and everything was based on the New Age movement and the philosophies that you were teaching. So
Yeah.
how do you get all untangled out of that?
Yeah, well, it was a huge, expensive process because I hired lawyers and
Oh, really? You had to get legal people involved.
yeah, and I wanted to just do it right and in integrity. I didn't want to just completely leave my clients high and dry and just be I'm out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I didn't want to continue to support these practices that I have decided to no longer practice myself. It was just really out of integrity. And
Yeah.
I tried multiple different things. I tried pivoting and nothing really felt right. And actually, that's when Christian vision came into my life. Is I started to fully close everything down, and I saw this job ad on Seek for a marketing specialist for Yes He Is, which basically helps young adults evangelize, which is a segment of Christian Vision. And I was just like, you know what? Like, I've been an entrepreneur for 5 years. I really love this vision that Yes He Is and Christian Vision represent. I'm just going to explore this. And it was way less income than what my...
So you're not the six-figure income anymore, huh?
Yeah, so it was definitely a massive pay cut, but I just felt called to explore and be involved. And
but as they say, the benefits are out of this world.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually what was really cool was, so I ended up getting hired for that role as a contractor. And then I just fell in love with the vision. And what was so cool is when I first started sharing on Instagram, I then had to go public about my faith and tell my 20,000 Instagram followers and my whole business and my 200 students and my clients, like, hey, I no longer follow these things.
Yeah, right. How did they respond?
Oh, it was really bad. I got a lot of resistance. And, I didn't do it right. I actually did it pretty bad. I basically came right out with the Satanism thing. And they were like,
so they didn't like being told they're Satanists or supporting Satan.
Yeah. And so that was not the way to lead it. I recognize. So it actually, I did this before, I was involved with CV, and I shut down my sharing my testimony and evangelizing because I was really bad at it at first. And so then I started working for Yes He Is, which the whole project is to help people with evangelism. And I started learning about evangelism, and I was able to use a lot of my skill sets for social media and everything I'd learned in business to help CV or Yes He Is mission. But Yes He Is actually really helped me. And I was able to share my testimony and start evangelizing to a lot of my previous New Age contacts because of the skill sets that I learned with Yes He Is. And it was everything that was kind of missing.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel about being a part of all this?
Oh, it feels amazing. It feels so good to be able to use these gifts in a way that just impacts people. And I am testament to how much Yes He Is has impacted me, and my skill set and what God has curated for me and my gifts are being utilized in such a bigger way than I could have ever done on my own. So it's just really cool to be a part of that. Yeah.
Wow. So the Lord has taken you out of the darkness, so to speak, and into the light, and now you're sharing that light with others.
Yeah.
So pretty cool journey. Thank you so much for sharing it with us today.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
On the Spotlight, we've been listening to part of a conversation between Eric Scatterbo and Molly Kubes on Real Faith. If you want to hear the interview in full, tap the podcast tab in the Free Vision app and search for Real Faith and the episode Molly Kubes Entangled in the New Age Movement. You'll also find many more fascinating Real Faith stories in the app. My name is Jen Spiker. Join me next time on The Spotlight as I share another podcast or video that deserves highlighting. If you have a favourite podcast or video series that you'd like to hear featured on The Spotlight, click Contact Us at vision.org.au and share the link.
For more great podcasts and videos like the one featured today, check out vision.org.au or the Free Vision app.